Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with German jazz pianist and singer Jacky Terrasson. We caught up with him in late April 2020 during the coronavirus lockdown to talk about his latest 2019 CD, 53. He has been hailed as one of the bright young lions of the traditional jazz scene since he captured everyone's attention when he won the Thelonious Monk Competition back in 1993. Born in Berlin to a French mother and an American father, his distinctive piano style reflects his old and new influences mixed together. He studied jazz at the Berklee College of Music in Boston with many other new traditionalists like classmates Danilo Perez and many others. He has moved on to quite a career. Take a listen.
Again, I want to thank you for taking a minute out. I've been a fan for a long time. And my first question is, we're in a unique time now. You have a relatively new album out. What is it like to have new material out now? Because people have the latitude to listen to it at home, but you can't. The other side of it is you can't do anything live with it. How does this bittersweet world that we're in now, jazz-wise, feel?
Yeah, it's really strange. I mean, the album has been out since September or October, I think. So, and it's been very well received, and that's cool and that's great and fantastic and everything. I know that a lot of my peers and a lot of musicians are doing a lot of stuff online. I'm kind of opposed to that, to be honest. Doing concerts for camera, that doesn't feel natural for me. I'd rather much wait and be in front of people in a few months. But it is frustrating to not be able to be on stage and perform.
Talk to me a little bit about your beginnings, how these jazz seeds were born. You were born in Berlin. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and how jazz became your future.
Well, before jazz, it was just the love for the instrument, for the piano. There was always a piano at home. My father used to play classical piano since I was very little. And I very quickly fell in love with the instruments. I didn't know, I was just playing, and then maybe even writing or composing little tunes. And my parents made me study classical music at first. And for me, it was a great thing. That's what I'd love to do. And then I really fell in love with different genres of music, classical and jazz, basically. But mostly jazz because improvisation, the idea of that freedom thing was something very appealing. And then I went to this school. I grew up in Paris, France. I went to this school where you had regular academic lessons in the morning, and then the afternoon you had 1 hour of either with a private teacher. Maybe on Tuesday it was an hour of solfège, music theory. On Wednesday it was history of music. On Thursday it was sight reading, and twice a week it was ear training. And it was a great school because, in the afternoon it was up to you to either, after that 1 hour of studying, it was up to you to either hang out or to go practice. And most students were very serious about what they were doing and hang out a little bit, but then everybody would go practice, for like 4 or 5 hours every day. After that I started... I quit school because I applied for a scholarship for Berklee Music, which I got. It was not full, but it was almost full. And I went to Boston for, I was supposed to stay 2 years, but I only stayed 1 year. I met this guy, this bass player who I really liked playing. We would practice a lot together and checking out tunes and maybe write. And he told me, well, listen, Jacky, I like your playing. I'd like to, if you're cool, I could get you a gig in Chicago for we didn't know how long it was gonna last. I ended up spending a year in Chicago, playing 5 nights a week, 5-hour sets, and that was the real school. No, that was the real school.
Yeah.
Being on stage, half of the set was a trio. By the way, the bassist, his name is Dennis Carroll. He's from Chicago. He's still over there. and the drummers, there would be different drummers. And then there was a singer, kind of crooner singer, Bill Acosta, I believe. And it was kind of like Sinatra-ish. And I would rewrite arrangements in his keys, and that was fantastic. There would be like gangsters coming in and prostitutes, and it was wonderful. And that lasted about a year until, having dual citizenship. I was, what's the word? The French authorities were looking for me because I never, over there at the time, the military service was mandatory, and I never registered. So my parents received a letter saying, Jacky, what you going to do? So, I was either let go of my French citizenship, and forget about the whole thing, or do it. So I had to go back to France to deal with that. After that, I started playing a lot in Paris with Didi Bridgewater, with Barney Whelan, with Ray Brown when he was doing a lot of his European tours, and in the mid-90s, I moved to New York for good, and spent the next 30 years in New York. And now I'm kind of shifting, between New York and France these days.
What was the first live jazz show you saw that made you think, man, this is what I want to do with my life?
I think the first live one was probably in Paris. I can't recall the name exactly, but I remember before being allowed to go into a jazz club, I met this very good friend of mine who happened to be the son of Francis Podras. So I met Stéphane. Francis Podras, by the way, is the guy who inspired Bertrand Tavernier to do the movie Around Midnight.
Yeah.
And so I was very good friends with Stéphane, and went to Francis' place a lot. And Francis really kind of adopted me. He loved the way that I was inspired by, that I loved Bud Powell and Thelonious Monk, blah, blah, blah. So I would go to his place a lot, and he had like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 LPs, and he told me, you can just buy a bunch of blank cassettes and copy anything you want, and we would have some dinners and talk about music, and he would tell me about when he took care of Bud Powell and all that, and how it was meeting and staying a little bit with Bill Evans. It was great. It was the closest thing to being in a jazz environment away from at that time I thought it was the only place in the USA, New York, the scene, and so Francis was the equivalent of the scene, so to speak, in Europe, in France, in any way, yeah.
Now that we're kind of in this period of jazz live, the absence of it, and a kind of a nostalgic, notion of live music now, what do you miss the most about being on the stage performing this music live?
Oh, well, just the sharing of the experiences of the music, of the energies, of the giving. When you walk on stage, it's all about love, about sharing, about giving, and that's what I miss the most. And the people, some of them are new, some of them have been following us for like decades, and being on stage and sharing the passion, the love of music, the contagious fever that's in the music. These are not good words by these days, but contagious fevers. but it's really that.
It's appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, it's appropriate, yeah.
The one thing I think about, too, with musicians that have had the chance to be around legends and luminaries and big people throughout your life, you've accumulated a really great jazz road. What memories, what experiences do you hold on to now that gives you strength through this time of absence and these hard times?
Well, first of all, I have to go back and say thank you to people like Betty Carter, who, when I moved to New York, that was basically almost my first real gig. I mean, it was a real gig, but it was my first gig with Betty Carter, and sharing the stage with her was amazing. You know, at the time I was already in love with Shirley Horn. I love Shirley Horn, and playing with Betty, sometimes she would approach the same kind of tempos that were just so slow. And, you know, I was maybe 25, 26 at the time. And all you're thinking is about playing a lot of notes, and Betty and many others. You really learned that, you know, the hardest part, the most demanding thing was actually being able to only play what was necessary, and not too much stuff. And she would always expect you to be fresh, and that was great, you know, because she was tough. So that was a fantastic memory. And then all the other people that I had the opportunity to play with.
Yeah. Why do you love jazz?
Because it's about honesty and hard work and pleasure and love, and but mostly it's a lot about honesty and energy and communication.
You know, we're going to get out of this. We're going to get back to a live environment. You know, there's still ambiguity about all of those aspects of it, but it will happen. And
yeah.
I want to know from you, what do you hope both musician and the audience gets from this absence of live music? Some revelation that we get when we all return.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that, because yesterday it was the first time in, almost 2 months now, that I learned that it was actually a show that was reconfirmed. It was honestly probably 40 or 50 shows that have been canceled, one after the other. And it's kind of a crazy, I just want to say this to people in general so they are aware. It's kind of crazy how musicians have basically no protection when something like this happens. You know, it's just canceled and that's it. No money, no nothing, you know. Yeah. Fortunately, a lot of the shows have just been postponed, like 6 months. But basically, you're just out there with no work, no income for a few months. Banks have been cool. I've been able to borrow for very low interest, just to stay afloat. What I'm really looking forward to is, you know, people hopefully realizing that live music is like nothing else, you know, that internet is just a screen. You're not there, you're not breathing, you're not seeing people sweat or really trying to get to something with other musicians. And hopefully it will increase this envy to go see live music again. But I think it's not a given because a lot of folks, and it's kind of natural. I'd be great to be in a place where there's a bunch of people and could be afraid to this basically what they're telling us not to do right now.
Yeah. Well, my final question to you is this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're living your life. Who do you think you are?
I'm Jacky Terrasson. No, seriously.
Yeah.
I'm just, you know, just trying to make the best out of this. I'm checking on my kids. They're okay. I want them to be safe. And I can't wait to be back on stage and to share this passion that I have, that many of us have, and play and have fun.
Amen. Yeah, I can't wait for you guys to get back.
To answer your question,
yeah.
You're nothing. We're nothing. We're nothing. something this big strikes, we just nothing, you know.
And
And a lot of us, a lot of musicians have gone since this has started.
you realize how little control over everything we have.
Good thing about this is the nature taking back its space a little bit, you know.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will tell you one thing that's always been joyous. I've been doing this show since 2011. I've done a lot of shows and interviews. The thing about jazz is that people aren't in it for the money. So, and the innovation is always ramped up when there's been adversity. So I see this genre of music coming back strong, monumental recordings, and I love you cats, and I'm going to do everything I can to get the word out there, and hopefully people can support and make it through this time, man, because all we have is hope.
Yep, that's it. Well, thank you.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Paris, Berlin, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Jacky for his time, energy, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.